Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I'm broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit, Talk Radio and Television. And I'm happy to have with me this afternoon Ms. Kelly Roach, who is the good afternoon, Brad. The Facebook chat is already starting to fill up, which is always cool. I'm going to have Kelly Roach, who is an international best-selling author, CEO of Kelly Roach Coaching. So very excited to have Kelly Roach on the show today. Let's see. Before we get to Miss Roach, I of course like to do a little bit of housekeeping. I first need to thank my sponsors, of course. The first sponsor, of course, that I would like to thank is Eva Rosenberg, aka the Tax Mama. Thank you so much for sponsoring Money Talk with Melanie. If you have not been to her website, you do yourself a favor and go to her website. There, she will answer your tax questions for free. And also, she has 2 best-selling books, Small Business Taxes Made Easy, as well as Deduct Everything, which, if you're a business person, you can't live without them. They are award-winning books. Also, I'd like to thank another sponsor of Money Talk with Melanie, Mr. David Barnett, who is the CEO and founder of BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com. If you are considering buying a business, hi, Deontay. If you're considering buying a business, don't consider doing so without buying one of his books and without going to his website. You definitely want to make sure that you do that. And he also has 2 books. One is called 21 Stupid Things, 21 Stupid Things People Do When Trying to Buy a Business. And the other one is called Franchise Warnings. You definitely want to make sure that you get either one of those books. I'm sorry. My guest is texting me, so I want to make sure that she's all good. So I apologize for stopping. So I just want to make sure that she is all good. Anyhow, you want to make sure that you go to his website and get his sage advice and pick up one of his books. So very, very, very important, and we appreciate his support. Also, if you want to find out in advance who is going to be on Money Talk with Melanie, then you can do so by following me on any of my social media. You can follow me on Facebook at Money Talk with Melanie, or you can also do so on Twitter at Money Talk Mel, or Pinterest, or let's see, where else am I? Or Google Plus, or Instagram. Under Instagram, I'm under Melanie T. Collins. But anywhere else, you can find me under Money Talk with Melanie. Anytime you can find me. If you Google Money Talk with Melanie, you will be able to find me. So the next thing, I'm sorry. I forgot a couple of things. If you'd like to email me, you can email me at moneytalkwithmelanie@gmail.com. And if you'd like to call me, offer me a suggestion or anything like that, I can be reached at 937-756-6639. So next is the Money Talk news. Now, I know I talked a lot about the iPhone yesterday, and I'm going to be talking about it more again today because, of course, more details have come out. And as what always happens when a new iPhone comes out, there's like this epic battle between Android users and iPhone users. I am solidly in the iPhone camp because, you know, I believe in superior technology. Yes, that's my first shot across the bow at you Android users. What's wrong with you? And I say that, I take that shot with authority because I'm a computer teacher after all. So so you have to take my advice on that. No, but one of the great things that came out is that it has facial recognition. Wow. I don't know. Listen, I don't know if I'm altogether down with the facial recognition, but the nerd in me is loving the fact that it's available. Just saying. So, and somebody, I don't know, one of my Facebook friends was like, "Well, can it recognize you facially in the dark?" Now I'm like, well, now, of course, I have to have one. You know, hashtag, you know, research. I think that's what I'm going with. But yeah, there's this epic battle going on Facebook between my Android users and my Apple users, and I don't know, it's giving the Bloods and the Crips a run for their money. I'm just saying. So, anywho, they have that, and by the way, it's the iPhone 10, not the iPhone X. I'm not going to say that somebody who's in the Facebook chat right now told me it was the iPhone X, but I'm just kidding. Somebody did. But they were also saying it wrong on the news. Like everybody was saying the iPhone X, which, anyway, it had been rumored, and maybe they weren't keeping track like I was, that the iPhone 10 was coming out. I was like waiting for that. So I kind of knew it was 10. I'm just saying. But that's big news. And I'm excited about that. Now, apparently, household incomes, this is really good news. Dave Milner's in the chat. Who, if speaking of housekeeping, Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy, I just did an interview with him yesterday, and he's already done the editing. So I need to post that. We, you know, both of us work during the night, both a little bit of night owls, and I remember him telling me that it was done. Oh, hey, Sean. So Sean is in the chat, one of my former colleagues in my other life. I was a public school teacher, and he was my neighbor, and an awesome one at that, my classroom neighbor. But household incomes have reached a new high last year, topping pre-recession levels, which is good news. The median income in 2016 was $49,000. So at least, you know, we're staying paid. So that's good. That's good news. All of us are staying paid. And I think that I talked about this a little bit yesterday, that the Supreme Court, or perhaps I didn't. I think I talked about it this morning, actually. The Supreme Court sided with President Trump to keep the ban on refugees. Actually, it was a radio hit. I did this morning. I was talking about that. And what happened is it reversed yet again the lower circuit's ruling that exempted grandparents, uncles, aunts from the travel ban, and it put that back in place. Now, yeah, can I just say something about the Ninth Circuit real quick? The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, who like literally 90% of their decisions get reversed. 90%. Where else can you work and have like a 90%? I mean, in my mind, if the Supreme Court keeps overturning your decisions, then like maybe you're not doing such a great job and you're interpreting the Constitution. I don't know. 90% seems pretty high. Just saying about the Ninth Circuit. But, and you know, as many issues as I have with our dear leader, President Trump, this is an example of kind of why it was SCOTUS. For a lot of people, it was all about the Supreme Court. That's just how it is. It was all, for a lot of people, it was all about the Supreme Court and making sure that, I mean, that decision would have definitely gone in the other direction if Gorsuch wasn't on it. That's just a fact. So it's something to think about And the travel ban is going to be over in like another 2.5 weeks, even though the Supreme Court is going to hear arguments on it on October 10th. And this will be an administrative ruling because the ban will be over by October 10th. This is really academic, but it's so that there is a decision, because I suspect this is going to come up again. And wisely, so does the Supreme Court. So they're going to be handling that again. Let's talk Nordstrom's for a second. In the in the business report this afternoon, they're thinking about going private. And I didn't get to this the other day. I forget who my guest was, but I didn't get to this in the news report the other day, that they're also like eliminating clothes. Nordstrom is. Not that I shop at Nordstrom, because as I've mentioned many times, I live in Cape May, and Nordstrom's is just not something that that we have here. The closest Nordstrom's is like 2 hours away in Philly from where I live. So yeah, Nordstrom's, Lord & Taylor. Yeah, I see none of that unless I go to Philadelphia. But Nordstrom's is thinking about going private. It's a family group, and they own 31.2% of the retailer, and they've begun discussions on going with a private equity firm. So that's something to keep your eye on. I don't know. I don't know how many of you shop at Nordstrom's. I haven't in years. I'm surprised people still do, but I guess people of a certain ilk maybe still are able to do that. I am not. And the last couple times I was in there, I didn't see anything. I'm not trying to trash Nordstrom's, but hi everybody in the chat. Welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, and finally, in the work realm, and I'm sure Sean Z can totally relate to this, and as can all teachers. Apparently, free food, fitness plans, and mental health support are becoming a way of the future at work and at our jobs. This is according to think tank the RAND Corporation. These are something that are becoming commonplace. Now, I have to say, of course, I say that jokingly. As a former school teacher, we didn't have any of that. Now, when I worked at the private school, I worked at the Haverford School as an executive assistant for many years. Yeah, we had a fitness center. We got a stipend for food. We had all kinds of like really good stuff, and that was years ago. So like private school is not only like fantastic for your kid if you can afford it at $30,000 a year, which is what I believe the tuition was at the time. But if you can work there, like, you know, they don't have a cafeteria like a private school does. Excuse me, like a public school does. They have a dining hall. And for years, when I switched to teaching in public school, I was referring to the cafeteria as a dining hall. And you can imagine that that doesn't go over well in the faculty room in a public school. Oh, such an outcast. What can I say? But anyhow, I am very happy to have Kelly Roach with me this morning. And when we come back, we will have her on the show after this brief commercial break. I want to thank everybody for listening. Everybody on Facey, you guys totally rock. We'll be back in a few moments.
The worst natural disaster in U.S. history has brought out the best in many Americans. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, in recent years, Americans have been more divided than any time since perhaps the Civil War. 49% of Americans clamor for a Venezuelan form of government. Even the Congressional Black Caucus members annually trek to Cuba for training on how to overthrow our constitutional government. 51% of Americans still believe in the possibility of an America that can be greater than ever. But when it comes down to it, we learn from natural disasters like the record-breaking hurricane of 2017 that no matter what, as Americans, we are at our best when we work together to find the best solutions to whatever challenges we face. Good and decent Americans from all sectors of society reflect the true nature of our republic. Sir Winston Churchill once said, "These are times that try men's souls." That certainly applies to those who have had to endure the loss of home, jobs, and in some cases, their very lives. But through it all, what may come out of this historic disaster is a reemergence of people learning how to reach out to one another and find real solutions that benefit our republic as opposed to destroying her. What was geared towards disaster may in many ways inspire a true rebirth of our republic. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. This tax is made easy and learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes. The tax benefits of different forms of financing, spot and fix errors in the 1099s, legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Start deducting today. Visit TaxMama.com. TaxMama.com. That's TaxMama with one M.com.
Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Love Mr. David Barnett. Going to have him back on the show very soon. Look forward to that. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Ms. Kelly Roach, and she is the CEO of Kelly Roach Coaching. She is also an international best-selling author, and I'm looking very forward to speaking with her this afternoon. She's the host of a top-rated podcast called Unstoppable Success Radio. Like I said before, she's an international best-selling author. She's also a former NFL cheerleader, and if you have not seen her picture on the promo, you will see part of the reason why. Hello, Ron Edwards. You'll see part of the reason why. She's so not just smart, but gorgeous too. As a Fortune 500 executive, she was promoted 7 times in 8 years. She brings a powerful combination of proven, profitable business growth strategies, which we're going to discuss, very excited, coupled with mindset, wellness, and productivity practices required to help entrepreneurs build a profitable business around a life they absolutely love. So I am absolute privilege to introduce to everyone the one and only Ms. Kelly Roach. How are you, Kelly?
Hey, Melanie. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you on the show this afternoon. I don't know if I think I told you guys this, that my show used to be in the morning, and I keep being tempted to say this morning, even though it's clearly 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad we were able to get you. We had a couple of glitches the last time, but we seem to have gotten it down now.
Yes.
You know how frustrating it is to have on your resume that you teach computer science and then have like computer issues? You know?
It happens all the time. I always say you do 7 interviews and everything's the same. And then the 8th one, you're using the same technology and it just fails. That's the thing about technology. You love it and you hate it because it's perfectly imperfect, right?
Absolutely true. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. And I want to talk a little bit about business growth strategies.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you have it coupled with mindset, wellness, and productivity. I had a guest on yesterday. Mara Sweeney's here in the chat. She's a happiness expert. Love her. She's great. But I like that you have that coupled. I had a guest with who doesn't like to be called a motivational speaker, but had a similar theme, so to speak. But what is your angle, if you will, about business growth strategies coupled that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so my primary drive behind everything that I do is to help entrepreneurs to create financial freedom. And it just so happens that I believe building and growing your own freedom-based business is the best way to bring together your goals, both financially and from a quality of life standpoint. However, what I found getting into that is that, it's one thing to teach people the mechanics of growing a business and the strategies and the tactics required to do that. It's another thing for the person to be mentally and physically fit to be able to do that work, right? And so what I realized is it's great that I can teach people the strategies they need to be successful, but I also have to be working on their mindset, their physical wellness, their well-being, their self-care, because the vast majority of people are so burnt out that no matter what I teach them, they're not going to have the energy or the drive or the ability to carry through on what I'm teaching. So it really is that fine balance of those two things that have to come together to actually generate results.
Indeed. I mean, after all, an entrepreneur works like what, 4 or 5 hours a day? And then, rest most of the time. It's just kind of relaxing. You don't really, have too many challenges. You just kind of don't need a whole lot of energy.
Exactly. That sounds about right. Yep.
Exactly. Now, of course, I'm being sarcastic. Actually, anyone who's an entrepreneur who's ever tried to own a business knows that you are pretty much working 24/7.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, especially in those first couple years, right? And the thing that's really hard in those first couple years for people is, you're both working that hard and investing so much in it, but you're not quite seeing the results yet. It's a lot easier to do the work when you're getting positive reinforcement all the time and you're seeing results. It's a lot harder when you're doing the work and maybe you're not yet seeing the results, right?
Very true, particularly when you're first starting out. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about not seeing results at first and business strategies to get you over that hump, so to speak, to get you to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. So I find that humans by nature, the vast majority of them, avoid doing typically what needs to be done and keep themselves really, really busy doing a lot of extraneous things that are quote unquote work, but they're not the work that's going to generate clients and make money for them. And so the number one thing, Melanie, is getting people to realize their own blocks around them kind of hiding behind their busyness of working on all of these things out here instead of working on this one thing in here, which usually tends to be sales and marketing, right? It's not picking up the phone. It's not calling the prospect. It's not doing the live stream. It's the things that are going to connect and actually engage people that are going to make them money that people are least likely to go spend their time on, unfortunately.
That, you know what? That's very true. And I fell victim to that. And I'm sure you're probably partially speaking from experience as well. And so how do you get past that? What kind of strategies can we employ to make sure that we're focusing on going to make us money?
Yeah, I mean, I think keep it simple. To me, the simplest strategy is typically the best one. So you wake up in the morning and you say, what is my financial goal with this business? Where do I want to be? And then you say, okay, and if I were to do only 3 things today, what would I do that's going to actually move me forward towards generating that goal? I find that a lot of people work on a lot of pretty tactics, but the tactics are not strategy. Strategy and tactics are very different things. So, people are always worried about like, what social media platform should I post on? Or how many times should I post a day? Or, this and that and the other. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's not what this is about. So I think it's just really getting clear on, how much time do you have to dedicate to your business? And with that limited amount of time, where are you going to spend it in ways that are going to generate results? And that's typically going to be forward-facing activities in which you're directly engaging with people in your target market. Webinars, live streaming, podcasting, speaking, phone calls, Skype sessions. When you're having a 2-way dialogue in some way, shape, or form, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, that's what's going to put money in the bank.
That makes a lot of sense. So in other words, so if you have all these mundane tasks, of which there are many, when you're one woman or one man band many times, unless you have a partner that's going to back you up. But a lot of times you just have this dream and you're just doing everything possible to work toward getting it done. What do you suggest people do to avoid things and not focusing?
Yeah. Well, what I always like to ask people, Melanie, is if you stop doing that altogether, how would it impact your income? Because most of the time, it's the people that aren't generating like any business or very, very few clients and leads that are so busy doing all of these things. And it's like literally you could stop doing everything you're doing and like throw it in the trash can because it's not producing clients anyway. And so like, yes, you feel the pressure to do this because of you habitually doing it, or maybe someone somewhere along the line told you that you needed to do it. But if you took this thing away today, how many clients do you have today because of that thing? And unless the answer is dozens and dozens, then obviously it's not the right thing for you to be spending your time on, right?
That makes a lot of, yes, indeed. And,
so it's all up here.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all up in the head. It's all in the head.
A lot of it is in your head. And I had Mayoko, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Mayoko Taylor on yesterday, who's a speaker who talks about something similar, but in a different way. And part of what we talked about is, how it's a head game, how a lot of it is a head game. A lot of what messes us up as well is, being inside of our own heads. Now, I want to ask you about things like self-sabotage and fear. How does that play into our business success or our lack of business success?
Yeah, I actually say that there's two things that are going to have the biggest impact on your entrepreneurial success. One, the degree to which you're willing to fail is the degree to which you're able to succeed. And two, the amount of imperfect action that you're willing to take is what's going to determine the level of success you will create. And those are the two biggest things. It's not money, it's not talent, it's not natural inclination, it's not investors, it's not any of those other things. It's, are you willing to take an action, imperfect action, and are you willing to fail? I find that so many people are so worried about failing because of society standards or people judging them or other people's opinions. I always say to my clients, no one gets to give you an opinion unless they're where you want to be. If they're where you want to be, they get to have an opinion. Their opinion matters in this circumstance. Unless they're a millionaire, retired early, living the life that you want to live, that built the dream for themselves for the ground up, they don't get to have an opinion. Or if they do, you shouldn't be taking it into consideration because you don't want to follow their path anyway, right?
You on the Facebook chat there, you just got a lot of likes and a lot of hearts. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mara Sweeney totally agrees, and she rocks hard. She's a happiness expert, and happiness is so great. She's fantastic. But you just got a lot of and one of my little proteges, I'm going to call him my protege just so he's mad. But actually. He heads up an organization called the Black Conservative Federation. And I'm a senior advisor, and he's in the chat room right now. And I'm pointing that out because he and I have recently been having discussions about that very thing that you're talking about. Like, who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? How do you process things? And he's very young, sharp young man, is going to do big things. But as a consequence, a lot of people offer unsolicited advice. So, we've been talking about like being judicious about, whose advice you take.
You have to be really, really careful because people state their opinions with such authority, right? Like, especially when you're young and you're so impressionable, because I was always young too. Like, when I was in my corporate career before becoming an entrepreneur, I was like in my 20s at boardroom tables with people my parents' age. So everybody had their opinions for me too. But it's like, unless you've done what I'm looking to do, I'm not really looking to absorb anything that you're putting out right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you have to have those filters turned on.
Exactly. So you have to look at, what is it that they do? What are you trying to do? And kind of filter advice.
Yes. Accordingly. Yep.
Exactly. Because listen, if you weren't super smart, you wouldn't be where you are. You wouldn't be sitting there with them.
Right.
So, you have your own really good common sense that you can use. And this is not to say not to reject, information from people who are experienced, but it is to say, be judicious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing that I've always said to people is, someone could be in a job for 21 years and it doesn't mean they were any good at it. There's a lot of people that sit in a job for years and years and years. Experience does not equate to results. Results are different from experience. Doing something for a long time, you could be doing it the same way wrong for years and years and years. That doesn't make you any good at it, right? So you have to be able to, make that distinction. But anyway, going back to your original question, how does mindset, how does self-sabotage, how does fear impact people's success? I mean, so much of it is a mental game. And if you master the mental game, you will be willing to take the risks necessary to go for your dreams and make it happen. But I think the biggest learning I had in entrepreneurship so far has been that in entrepreneurship, it's almost different than any other area of life in that literally the only way you can learn is through doing. You can't learn it in a classroom. You can't learn it from a textbook. You can't learn it in a vacuum. So you either have two options. One, try to practice and prepare in a vacuum and never go out there and do anything and never get any results. Or two, go out there and be willing to fail, but realize that through that failure, you will learn to succeed as long as you don't give up.
Yes, indeed. And you used the phrase earlier, and I didn't mean to skip over it. I think you said imperfect action is the phrase that you
Yes.
used. And I didn't want to gloss over that. And I want you to tell the audience, I have an idea of what you mean by that, but I'd like you to tell the audience exactly what it is you mean by imperfect action. I think it's similar to something a friend and I were talking about the other day. But go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, it's being willing to try. And it's being willing to try before you have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. I mean, they always say entrepreneurship is being willing to, fly the plane and build the wings on the way, right? Like that is what entrepreneurship is. And I find that so many people stay stuck in planning and preparing and getting ready. But unfortunately, you can't get feedback from your market that way. You can't get legitimate, real data that way. You don't know what you're even working off of when you're going around in your head versus being out there in the world, actually progressing through the learning curve. No one gets to skip over the learning curve that it takes to succeed just because you planned and prepared for a long time. So it's like people think they can keep planning and preparing and that will shorten the learning curve, and it absolutely will not. Only doing it is going to shorten the learning curve.
That is so true. And it is similar to what a friend and I, who's also an entrepreneur, were discussing the other day. We were actually talking about our websites that neither one of us have launched yet. And the fact that part of the reason yet is because we both are kind of perfectionists and we don't want to launch it until it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, aesthetically beautiful and really fast and, it's there, but it's just not perfect. And he's in a similar situation. He's got a website that he's been working on, but he hasn't launched it yet because it's not perfect. Now, but here's what he shared with me, which is this. He said a wealthy business person told him one time that a mediocre, something to this effect, that a mediocre plan in action is better than a perfect plan.
100%. 100%. And you see it in the market, right? The people that are winning in every niche, in every industry, in every space right now are not the ones that are best at what they do. They're the ones that are best at taking action, marketing, and putting themselves out there hard. It's not the most talented and it's not necessarily the best, but it's the people that are out there the most.
Indeed. This was the other thing he said to me. Now, me being a computer person, I've been teaching computers for years. I'm an adjunct professor. I teach computers. I didn't even know this. And I talk about this all the time about bugs in programs when they initially are introduced, or in apps when they're initially introduced. They're always really buggy, and particularly operating systems. So I don't come within a 10-foot pole of a new operating system until it's been out for a while. This friend told me that Bill Gates does that on purpose, to do the exact same thing that you just talked about, to get the market feedback.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Right. It does.
I would that makes total sense, because that's how you learn in entrepreneurship, by real user feedback.
Exactly. And so what he said was that he intentionally just kind of gets the meat of the program done and unleashes it on the public, and they get all the feedback and whatnot that they need in order to perfect it, which now makes a lot of sense. I'm still not touching them. And so
right. Yeah.
But there are some people who totally love, beta versions of everything and love trying that stuff. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
But the fact that is a legitimate business strategy, and I always perceived it as them just being lazy or not being thorough, because thorough right here.
Yes, yes,
Also,
yes.
website not done. So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Now, I'd also like you to talk a little bit about self-sabotage and how that can be an issue for any of us. How do we sabotage our business pursuits?
Yeah.
How does
Well, I think, I think that when you make the commitment to start your entrepreneurial journey, it kind of brings all your stuff up, right? So like it brings everything up. Anything that's been like hiding down below the surface is like, boom, it's all brought out to the surface, and it is like going crazy, flashing left and right. I mean, self-worth issues, things from your childhood. I mean, it all comes out because it's the first time in your life for most people that you're like really putting yourself out there, like you, yourself, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your name, your brand, your company, your everything. And you're having to sell yourself for the first time. So I think it's just recognizing that. And what I always say to people, and I really genuinely believe that, is you were given the dream that you have for a reason. You were given that inclination of what you're being drawn and pulled to do for a reason. You were put here with a plan, with a purpose, for a journey that you're meant to take. So whatever you're feeling and thinking that's coming natural to you as far as where you think you're supposed to be or what you think you're supposed to do, those issues that are coming up are probably coming up because you're meant to help other people to work through those things.
Indeed.
It's part of who you have to grow into to become the business leader that you want to become. But it is something that we all do. It is something that comes up for every single one of us. And I think just even being aware of it and just saying, hey, whoa, I'm going to put that in its place. Like, I am worthy. I do belong here. I do have this dream for a reason. You know what I mean?
Indeed. And by the way, you're getting a lot of thumbs up. And Deontay Johnson, the person who's the president of the Black Conservative Federation, says this lady is amazing. And I have to tell you something. I've been working with Deontay for quite some time. It is not easy to get a compliment out of him.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Deontay. Thank you.
Ron Edwards, who is also fantastic. You probably heard his Ron Edwards notebook during the break. He's a radio personality, says that you are spot on regarding overcoming self-sabotage. So I just wanted to share.
Thank you, guys.
The ones that I can see because I don't have my glasses on and it's kind of far away.
I hear you. I hear you.
Those comments in the chat, and I tend to agree with both of them. You are amazing, and you are dead on as far as self-sabotage is concerned. It happens to us, way too often.
Mm-hmm.
We do that to ourselves. And like you said, we're totally exposed. Everybody kind of knows what it is that we're working on, and you are selling
yourself.
You're the brand. I mean, this show's called Money Talk with Melanie, right? There's nobody else can come in and really do Money Talk with Melanie for any period of time.
Right.
It's all about me, so to speak. And that's always going to be that way. So you question everything because there's going to be failures.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Because we're not perfect. So there's going to be incidents where we fall short. And hi, Dave Miller, 2017, everyone is a public figure. How about that?
Yes.
It's true. It's very true.
Very true.
And that, even that is challenging because, in the environment that we're in, like right now we're streaming live on Facebook and on Google Hangout, the public is watching. Mm-hmm. And everyone has an opinion and unfortunately feels like they have to share.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Yes, they do. Yeah.
That opinion, like you could have really just kept that. Just saying.
Yeah.
For real. So when we come back on the other side of the break, I wanted to talk to you about the whole energy aspect, the work-life balance aspect of being a successful entrepreneur, because those things are absolutely key. Just basic things like, I don't know, getting enough rest, exercise. And as an entrepreneur, like you were saying earlier, we spend a lot of times doing the mundane things and a lot of times put that stuff on the back burner thinking it's not all that important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When it certainly is. Everyone, you are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm so happy to have with me this afternoon Ms. Kelly Roach. We're talking about business strategies and work-life balance. and etc. We will be back on the other side of the break.
Power brokers use corrupt politicians, deceptive Islam, and lies from establishment media to turn the once shining city on a hill into the city of the blind. What do the elites fear? One man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me at SHR Media, High Plains Talk Radio, Spreaker, iTunes, and YouTube for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe, Hook Reaver, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio. The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the tax benefits of different forms of financing, spot and fix errors in the 1099s, legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Start deducting today. Visit TaxMama.com. TaxMama.com. That's TaxMama with 1M.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Okay, and we are back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your one and only business diva, Melanie Collette. And I have the privilege of having with me the one and only Ms. Kelly Roach, who is dropping some serious knowledge on us about business strategies and work-life balance and basically business success. And she should know because she has successfully been an executive and promoted within Fortune 500 companies. She's a former NFL cheerleader. Look at her. You can see why. So not just smart, but gorgeous, and dropping some serious knowledge on us here on Money Talk with Melanie. We really appreciate you being here. Before the break, I asked you about work-life balance, which is particularly important for entrepreneurs because we don't have, a clock where, we hit the clock at 9 and then we sign out at 5 and then we're good to go. So it's even more difficult, I think, for entrepreneurs to find work-life balance. So how do we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think for entrepreneurs, work-life balance has to be treated as a core business objective. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. What I learned in my Fortune 500 career, and then for myself as an entrepreneur, and then with all the people I coach, constantly, is that you simply cannot sustain over the long-term growth in any business without taking care of yourself. And so it got to the point for me where literally self-care has become a part of my core business growth strategy. So whether it's exercising, whether it's wellness related things, just taking time for myself to meditate, walk outside, think, breathe. I think that that's the very first thing that everyone defaults to compromise: their sleep, their exercise, their nutrition, and their self-care. And what happens is I find myself, and I shared at the beginning of the show already, that the reason why I shifted my brand to focus on the balance between business growth and personal development is that so many people struggle so much with the personal development side, which is where I would put self-care. It's really, valuing yourself and loving your body and taking care of yourself. So many people struggle so much with that I can't help them in business. So then I have to go back and I got to help them with the self-care so that I can help them in business. So I think if you believe that you were put here with a plan, with a purpose to do big things, and you have big dreams that you want to create for your family, recognize that your health is the one thing, no matter what, that if you compromise, it doesn't matter what level of success you create, you'll never get to enjoy or experience it. And, like I said, treat it as a business objective. You got to get 8 hours of sleep. You got to take time to exercise. You have to fill your body with fuel that's going to allow you to keep going at the pace that we work. And without those things, yes, you'll have short-term success, but it always ends the same way.
Exactly. That is very true. The unpleasant blind guy who I referred to as Dave Milner, who's also already and you heard his promo during the break. And FYI, gang, there's a brand new unpleasant blind guy Money Talk with Melanie interview in the hopper. I think it's out. I have to double check. I don't know if it's released yet or not, but we wrapped it up yesterday, and I got a message from the one and only unpleasant blind guy, who, by the way, is not unpleasant, that it was done. So keep your eye on that. But Dave and I were talking about that very thing yesterday. After the interview, we were discussing things like that, and every radio personality, especially in the genre that we work, you're doing everything. You're doing production, you're doing media and promotion. You're booking your own gigs. You're on other people's shows. You're booking people for your show. Sometimes some of us have an intern, which I'm actually working on getting that done, because but I could do it myself. There's a part of me that's kind of afraid, right? I mean, it's not really hard to actually do that, and that's not where the money comes in, right? Booking guests, somebody else could be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can tell you the number one thing for my quality of life has been my team. I mean, I have a team of 7 now, and that's how we keep growing. That's how I'm able to keep my working hours in check and still focus on my family and sleep and take care of myself and achieve our business goals, is by getting results through other people. And it's hard in the beginning. And in the beginning, you're making more of an investment than you're getting a return. But if you focus on being a good mentor, a good coach, and really investing in the people that you hire, then ultimately they're going to bring you far greater return than you could ever spend paying their salary.
Indeed. And you mentioned meditation and going for a walk and taking the time to think. I mean, for me, I'm a Christian. For me, it's prayer. And sometimes, of course, meditation and prayer kind of go hand in hand, depending on you know, who you are.
Yeah.
Some people refer to prayer secularly as meditation, just because it just makes life easier, keeps the trolls off your back. But what role does that play in your business success? Because I feel like a lot of people, that aspect of their success, and I think it's an important one.
It is a huge one. You know, I start my day and end my day with gratitude meditations every single day. I think being in a state of gratitude constantly has been my greatest reason for success. I mean, I'm thankful that I have a bed to sleep in at night and, you know, shelter and food to eat. And so everything else on top of that is like an unbelievable blessing that I feel so grateful for. And I believe that it's that attitude that allows you to endure the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and keep your head screwed on straight, right? Like first world problems, people. You know, I think we sometimes get so in our heads that we're like panicking over things that like, come on, like really? Like this is not a real issue, right? And I think it's very easy to go there though when you're in the day-to-day of running your business, because yes, there is a lot coming at you and you do have a lot of pressure and you're juggling a lot of balls, and like, you know, everybody gets there, but you need a harness to bring you back. And for me, that's absolutely meditation. It's gratitude. It's prayer, it's spirituality. Yes, I think that is a huge reason for my success, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's not in any business books. Have you ever seen that in a business book?
No.
Make sure that you take care of your spiritual life.
Right.
Make sure that you commune with your creator. Never see that in any business book that I've ever read.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I think we all start off thinking we can do it alone. Like I know for me, like I started off and I was like, I got this, you know, and I was like with blunt force, like hammer, 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 boom. And then like eventually I was like, oh, wait a second. Like I can have a partner in this. And like this doesn't need to be so like hard. Right. And I think then when we surrender a little bit and we become more open and like acknowledge that we do need help, I think things shift a lot. Right.
Indeed. Indeed. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And it's funny because those people who venture out to start a business, many of us tend to already be type A personalities, tend to be a little bit more outgoing, and tend to be, and I'll speak for myself on this, a little bit have that perfectionism kind of thing, and that we can do it all kind of thing going on, which when you rely on a higher power, that goes completely against all of those traits that make you a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. So true. So true. You know? Yeah.
But it's an important part. So finally, let's talk a little bit about staying motivated, because you've mentioned a couple of times that, you know, when we first start out, we don't immediately see the return from all of the work that we're putting in. So how do we stay motivated through that to get to the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think first of all, focusing on progress instead of perfection. I think that it's really important to set big, aggressive, hard to achieve goals, but it's also equally important to be able to acknowledge progression, because those big goals can only be accomplished when you do the little day-to-day actions over and over again that maybe aren't as fashionable or sexy or as exciting as you would like to think, but it's the repetition of those things daily over time that ultimately add up to the big wins. So I think it's recognizing progress. It's taking time to reflect on where you started and where you've gotten to and where you're still going. And then I think it's going back to center and saying, why did I start? Why am I continuing? And, you know, what do I want? Obviously, the reason why you're doing what you're doing is you want life to be better for yourself and your family than it was in past generations. You want to be a leader that changes the history of the course of your family. And that's why you're doing what you're doing. And I think remembering that gives you the fight and the spirit and the optimism to keep going.
Indeed. Indeed. And it's certainly tough. I don't know if you have a mentor. I have several that I talk to that also kind of help me keep going, you know?
Yes.
They say, yeah, I've been there. It's going to change. You're going to be good. You're going to be good. No.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, I've totally enjoyed this conversation. My audience has as well, many positive comments and remarks on Facebook. How can people get in touch with you, avail themselves of your coaching services, any books that you have out, etc.? Talk to us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, first of all, my podcast is called Unstoppable Success Radio, and it is designed exclusively to help entrepreneurs go further, faster in growing their businesses and accomplishing their life goals. So that's on Stitcher and, iTunes and all the other major podcast platforms. That's free. If you want to get in touch with me, you want to learn how to get help growing your business. I run coaching programs, online courses, masterminds. I do private consulting. You can just email me, coaching@kellyroachcoaching.com. And finally, my book, you puppy. My book is out. It's available on my website, kellyroachcoaching.com, or Amazon, 9 Principles for Unlimited Success in Business and in Life.
Love it. Love it. Say that title one more time because I interrupted you a little bit.
No problem. It's Unstoppable, 9 Principles for Unlimited Success in Business and in Life.
Excellent. Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got an opportunity to nail this down. It's totally worth it.
Yes.
Fantastic information. And I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Melanie. You're a great host, and I love the conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You have a great day.
Thanks. You too.